This is Africa.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are onto Afro Truth TV, a channel set up specifically to deliver to you information about Africa the way you've never heard it before. And that is why I am very much appealing to you to try as much as possible to follow this video to the end. Like it and share it so that you can have it stored or preserved, that you can refer to it where you want to. And you can also share it with your friends so that you did not restrict the knowledge to yourself. Knowledge about Africa. Today we'll be dealing with a topic that will be of interest to everyone that is concerned about how and why Nigeria as a country is not where we expected it to be. Even the younger generations that don't know about the past are all, very quick to say that Nigeria was better than what it is now. Even a 20-year-old boy will tell you, oh, the Nigeria was better than this, as if he was there. Those of us who were there, let's tell you the story. That's why it's important that you must listen. I'm not going to take you too far. I'm going to take you from where I knew Nigeria and where it is now. So specifically, my presentation to you on Nigeria is going to start from the late 50s, early 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. We are in the 20s now, and to the glory of God, you are going to hear firsthand from someone who experienced this, not what I was told. The Nigeria that I'm talking about is the Nigeria I grew up to know that every 1st of October, our uniforms are daily ironed and we turn out dressed very neatly and smart to go and assemble at first the Liberty Stadium as a little boy to celebrate Nigeria. The march past we always enjoy. The school children will take their turn when the police and the army must have finished the very smart ones. And that became an attraction for us to begin to aspire to want to become soldiers, police, and whatever. Because of the smartness, the beautiful display of their parades. And that was an era where we know no hunger. We did not have to tell our parents we must eat bread. There was abundance of yam, there was abundance of beans, there was abundance of every other local food that you can imagine. You can just be sure that you will eat to your satisfaction. So now, as for education, I was one of those kids who were in the free education system declared by the Western region. And I can tell you that even when all the other two regions in Nigeria did not declare free education, there was education that was attractive enough to keep children in school. because much later, in the 60s, I had the privilege and opportunity to also test what primary school education was like in the eastern region and in the northern region. That was the era when our parents can put us in the train during holidays to go all the way down south to go and spend holidays with friends, with relations, with families. And at the end of the holiday, our uncles will put us back in the train to go and rejoin our parents in the north. It was fun traveling 2 days from Lagos to Kaduna, or 3 days Lagos to Ungu, as the case may be. In the 60s, education was such a competitive and interesting aspect of life that made us aspire from a very tender age to become either a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, and nobody was being pushed to go and learn a trade. It was a voluntary and a family decision to say, this child, after your primary school or secondary school, as the case may be, you learn a trade. Either because the family did not want you to waste your time, or the family did not feel that you need to spend too much time pursuing education, especially if you have a large family. It is only the never do well that were traveling abroad. Ask anybody who traveled abroad in the early 60s. They will tell you that they couldn't pass their school start, hence they ended up in the US, where you can just get admission with, a poorer school start result. So we were proud that we are the ones who could pass our exams and could make university admission, which was not controlled by JAMB. It was universities that were controlling their system. Come back to the economy. It might interest you to know that in this country, in the early 60s, towards the end of that, up to when we had the 1966 crisis that culminated in the Civil War, and at the end of the crisis in 1970, the economy was never too down as to warrant an inflation or what you can call economic failure, or what economists will refer to as bankruptcy. By the end of the war in 1970, the then Minister for Finance, late Chief Obafemi Awolowo, announced to the world that Nigeria came out of the war without borrowing a penny from anybody, from any country. He also announced to the world that our economy was buoyant enough to start the implementation of what the then government of General Yakubu Gowon referred to as the 15 years economic rolling plan. In other words, 15 years of economic development of Nigeria for Nigeria to become a technologically sustained, sufficient nation. That was the era that moved us into the 70s, when our head of state then announced that the problem of Nigeria is not money. The problem of Nigeria is how to spend the money. And that was why the then government refused to demobilize soldiers that were mobilized or recruited for the Civil War because they felt that Nigeria was buoyant enough to be able to keep its men that had fought for the country. So there was no mass demobilization after the war. That was the era when Nigeria embarked on a large-scale development projects that led to the construction of strategic industries like the Alaja steel rolling mill, the Ajaokuta iron ore mining, the Osogbo machine tool company, the Katsina steel rolling mill, giving us the flash sheets. That was the era when we had 5 tire manufacturing companies in Nigeria, including a local one that was called Odutola Tires. That was the era when we had 3 glass factories in Nigeria. The Ewele Glass Factory, the Toyo Glass in Ibadan, and the one in Lagos. That was the era when we had 7 car assembly plants in Nigeria. We had a Namco in Enugu giving us the Mercedes buses. We have Fiat in Kano giving us all the big trucks. We have Peugeot assembly in Kaduna that was giving us the Peugeot cars. We had Volkswagen in Lagos giving us the Volkswagen vehicles, including a locally developed and completely manufactured Nigerian car that was known as Igala. Volkswagen. That was the era when Nigerians were not riding what you call Tokumbo cars now. We didn't know anything like that. That was the era when those of us who were students in the higher institution could afford to buy a car for 170 naira. And then thereafter, the price went up to 300 naira. And a Peugeot car was sold then for 3,500 naira. That was the era when you could buy a motorcycle for as low as 190 naira. That was the era when things like shoes, clothes were made here. We had suits that were made by our tailors. And when shoes have to come from abroad, they have to come from the best of places. That was a boom era in Nigeria, when oil was only known to a few. So what happened? Because then, those of us who were in school, we were eating food for free. Government was taking care of our feeding to the extent that we could as well have the luxury of government providing bed sheets in our hostels, employing cleaners to mop our floors. It was a joy being in a higher institution. But again, like I asked, what went wrong? Why is it that those who enjoyed all this were the same people that knocked down the system and made it as if there was never a time Nigeria was known for luxury? Why is it that the country that was welcoming foreign students into its higher institution now become a country that is exporting students abroad? Why is it that a country that once had the best of doctors, the best of teachers, the best of engineers? Because I could still remember in 1972, we had a professor in the University of Lagos who developed a car from the scratch, unique to Nigeria. A car that even before the Japanese started manufacturing auxiliary gears, Professor Awojobi came up with the idea of auxiliary gear in cars, and he developed it in Nigeria, in Lagos. So what went wrong? So my people, we want to find out what went wrong. Again, I will go back to what I have always advocated, or the idea I have always been pushing, that in the midst of all this boom, some people sat down and said, let us scramble them, let us disorganize their system, let us remove them from this understanding and redirect their minds and attention towards something else. Why? So that Nigeria will not get it right. Because the understanding is clear and known that Nigeria is the arrowhead of Africa's survival. Because at that time when we had our boom, 2.5% of my salary as a civil servant was being deducted to support the struggle in South Africa. Nigerian troops were being sent to Angola to go and support the fight against the rebellion in Angola. In Mozambique, Nigerian civil servants were being sent even as far as Uganda, as Zimbabwe, as Mozambique, even nearby West African countries like Gambia, like Sierra Leone. Nigerian civil servants were being sent across Africa, even to the Caribbeans. Nigerian judges, up to recently, we still have Nigerian judges in most of these countries. There was a time a Nigerian even rose to become the chief judge of a country like Mozambique. Some of them remained there and never to come back. Then our adversaries, our colonizers, those who want Africa to remain backward so that they can continue to take and exploit the resources in Africa for free. Turn around and say, if we must get Africa down, we have to get Nigeria down. And that was the beginning of encouraging coup plotting, bringing in soldiers that were never educated on economics and governance to say, okay, never worry, we will support you. IMF and the World Bank will be there to advise you on how to run the country. And who does not know that IMF and the World Bank were never set up for the benefit of anybody than the colonial and the imperial world? That is why even when a system is not working, IMF will introduce that system across the globe. The same template that they will introduce to Africans, they will introduce to Asians, they will introduce to the South American, just to ensure that all of them are directed towards a different direction, from a direction that will benefit them. In other words, continuous colonization. So, for us not to lament too much, the question I will now want us to look at this morning is, what are our youths expected to do? What should they be doing? I will address that. I was asking our sons, what are we supposed to do differently? In my last video, my independence message to Nigerian youths, I remember telling you not to wait for Nigerian government, not to wait for the system to tell you or come and help you to become what you want to become. I remember telling you that your destiny is in your own hand. And I remember also telling you that it is not by running away that you are going to make it. All of us will not find ourselves there. Those who are going to be left behind here, that should not be a reason why we are disadvantaged because we are left behind in Nigeria. Let it be like what it used to be in the past, where only those who could not succeed in this environment go that way. Let it be that those who have gone will come back and meet us succeeding. And so, listen to this video very carefully and then tell yourself that you need to make it without necessarily struggling to go away. I hear people wanting to go. You want to leave Nigeria, you will buy flight tickets. By the time you finish processing your visa, that the visa fee is being increased every day, you spent nothing less than 7 to 10 million naira. For some countries, far more than that you will spend to get into their country. God bless you if you get into Donald Trump's America. And ICE gets to pick you up and they bundle you and send back. Your 10 million naira has gone down the drain. So let me give you the experience of a young man in Lagos whose parents, families came together after his education and said, let him go abroad or whatever. And when the money was given to this young man to process his papers and travel abroad, he simply went under the beggar bridge, picked up a very nice Toyota 16-seater bus and started running transport service between Lagos and Benin. The family were not happy. They were complaining and saying all kinds of things, but the young man was not budged. He simply let them know that he decided to go that way so that money will not be wasted. In a record time of 5 years, that young man has doubled the number of his transport buses from 1 to 8. In 5 years, he had 8 buses. And as at that time, he became the breadwinner and the pillar of his family financially. So nobody complained anymore. Rather, the family were thanking God that the young man took the decision he took. There was the case of another one. Here, this young man pulled money together, raised 5 million naira that he wanted to use to travel out. And when he realized that half of that 5 million naira was going to go into paperwork, visa applications and stuff, he simply decided to plunge into business. What was the business? This young man goes to Oyo, buy cassava, raw cassava, bring it to Ibadan, process it into garri and sell. In 2 years, this young man has an automated garri processing factory that was turning over tons of garri every week, from which he was able to make enough to build himself a house, buy cars, buy 2 vehicles that he's using to distribute his garri, and he was more than comfortable than somebody who went to labor abroad. So, let me now bring in the experience of one of my sons who had a master's degree and was ready to go abroad for a PhD. And the sum of money was raised for him to start processing going abroad. And somewhere along the line, the young man changed his mind and said, rather than go abroad, I will pick up a trade. So what is it? I just told him in simple terms, I said, go to Computer Village in Ikeja, in Lagos. Those boys you see there are not hungry, learn what they are doing. With your educational background, you will be better at it. In a record time, this young man became so good at what, that was the era of computer networking, when we had to run lines, and stuff. Became a very sound computer network engineer that was hitting contracts across the country. As at the year 2000, this young man has 2 houses, has 2 cars, married with children, and very comfortable, with 2 shops in Ikeja, 1 in Alaba. And not too long ago, he extended his business into Abuja. He is no longer talking about traveling abroad for studies or traveling abroad to go and labor. Now he can travel abroad for vacation. In other words, he has made enough money that he can afford to buy a ticket with his family and go and spend 1 month, in a cool place to enjoy himself. Here in Nigeria. So the issue or question is, as a young man, you don't need to have a quantum of money kept in your hand for you to first and foremost dream. I told you in my last video on the independence celebration, I said you don't need money to start life. You need ideas. Dream. Think of something that you can do that will solve a societal problem. When you start with that and you start working on that idea, the moment you start solving that societal problem, you are already on your track to success. Because before you know it, it will attract customers, it will attract clientele, and you are in business. Money will flow into it because you are busy. So the first thing you should be doing is become busy with an idea you are comfortable with, an idea that keeps you happy, an idea you are very, very, very passionate to deliver. And the moment you do that, I can assure you that you are going somewhere. That's what you need. Come to think of it, why is it that in this stage and time, we no longer have apprentices? We don't have young boys and girls willing to spend 1 year, 2 years to pick up a trade. Why? Why is it that everybody wants to go to the university to go and pick up a certificate? I told us in my previous video, I said, if you are in that mood of go to the university, pick up a certificate, you are believing that it is when you come back with that certificate that life will be better for you, you are the biggest dreamer. The reality on ground in Nigeria does not support that understanding. Reality on ground in Nigeria is that if you are doing something, you are your way to becoming recognized, sustainable. You are your way to becoming somebody. Why is it that we don't have apprentices anymore in Nigeria? Young people are not ready to pick up a skill anymore. Young people are not ready to run the race before making money. Everybody wants to become Yahoo, and I told us in my previous talk that there is nothing like Yahoo. Like I said, what you know as Yahoo is nothing but money ritual. If you are not ready to go into money ritual, then you cannot go into Yahoo. Because, come to think of it, does computer need blood to run? Does your internet need human blood to run? The answer is no. So why do you have to kill to be in Yahoo? So it is not Yahoo for money, it is money rituals. Otherwise, why is the Anambra State governor declaring all the herbalists in Anambra State wanted and arresting them? Because he knew that they are the ones deceiving these young people, telling them that they will give them something that they will use to make money. What I will admonish Nigerian youths to do, that I kept singing, I kept sermonizing, I kept talking about it, is forget about government. No government will come and build you. No government will come and empower you. Government has not empowered anybody anywhere. Don't be deceived. Government has not empowered anybody anywhere across the globe. What government simply do is politicians running their programs and race to corner government opportunity to make their own money. Don't be deceived by saying American system is better. The system in America and in Europe, who told you that they were made by government? They were not made by government. They were made by individuals who had made themselves. So when you have made yourself, you can afford to make your life better. You can build a good house and live inside. You can buy a good car and drive it. You can set up a company that manufactures cars. Were you told that the Toyotas of this world were born as millionaires? Were you told that the Honda of this world were born as millionaires? They were not born as millionaires. They were simple technicians who went out to pick a trade. Toyota was a technician. Honda was a technician. The same thing with the man called Mercedes. The same thing with the man called Benz. Mercedes and Benz were two friends who came together to start a company called Mercedes-Benz. They were not engineers. They were technicians. So when you ask our youth to go and pick up a trade, they say they don't need it. You want to go and carry a certificate, mechanical engineering. Whereas, if you can afford to bend down under a master, a mentor, for 2 years, 3 years, you pick up what that person knows and you improve on it, and you are better at it. Then you become better than your master, and you earn more than your masters. Before you know it, you have started a business. You have started a trade. And before you know it, you are running a race that nobody has run before. That is why we should be giving kudos to Nigerians who had this understanding, concept, that they were able to stand up and do something with their lives without necessarily waiting for government. And then later you see government turning around to patronize them, to come and solve societal problems that the government cannot solve. So my dear, nothing stops you from finishing your university, the so-called university that has not empowered you to do anything, and come back to empower yourself. I will close with 2 examples. One was of a young man that I knew who listened to me telling him this kind of thing some years back. He finished from the university. While he was serving his youth, go through his youth service, we had a chat. We met, we chat. And I told him, young man, take that piece of paper, put it under your box, and go pick up a skill. And he said, what do you advise, Daddy? I said, go and pick up a skill, period. And sarcastically, I told him, I said, go and learn furniture. Go and learn how to make chairs, bed. As I speak with you, that young man is a multi-millionaire because he ran with that advice. He went to Benin, where you have a very good and intelligent and artistic furniture makers. Learned that trade for 2 years. Came to Lagos and set up his own business. He is manufacturing furniture for exportation, because his furniture started going to Europe as far back as 2021. His furnitures are no more sold here in Nigeria. He packaged them for Europe. He is a big boy now as a furniture maker after his degree program in the University of Benin. So, what are you doing with your university certificate? You are looking for a government employment. And government employments are no more available. If there's any employment in government, they have been reserved for politicians and their children. So you that is not a politician, your father is not a politician, why don't you become wise? Fix yourself up, pick up a trade or a business, and then you see what comes out of you. The second example I'm going to close with that I told you is about a young man who, after his university education, chose to become a photographer. He was not asking to be employed. He simply sourced little money, bought a camera for himself, came to this Abuja, and then I was still in government service. He was moving from offices, going around snapping people. Sometimes he comes around my table, we say, "Oh, Daddy, you are dressing beautifully today, let me give you a shot. From different angle, I give you a shot." And we were laughing at him. He will take I will take like 5-6 shots, pick a good one among them, he will go and enlarge it without even you telling him to enlarge it. That enlargement you see there is one of his work. And he was doing that, and we were like, this young man, we don't know what's going on. And he did that until one of the people he gave a nice shot found himself in the villa and invited him one day to come and cover one of the events that happened there. And from there, the vice president saw him, saw his work, decided to give him a contract in the villa for 2 years to become the villa photographer. And before you know it, this young man started traveling with the president, because the president became aware and now wanted to have, to display his talent in those shots. And by the time that government, was out of office, the young man quietly went back and built a school for himself, where he is now teaching photography and some other things. He is still thinking of going abroad. So you can see, my dear friends, my children, that there is a lot you can do for yourself. I told you previously that all those who built America were not government workers. 90% of them were not even university graduates. Steve Jobs was not a university graduate. Even your Bill Gates dropped out of the university at 200 level. Michael Dell dropped out of the university. The man that built Dell computers. Many of them dropped out of university. Father, the university that Donald Trump attended before he became Donald Trump and became the president of America today. He was a successful businessman. So you will discover that what you need is a dream, an idea that will solve a societal problem. And there were we have plethora of problems around us that is waiting for a solution to come from one of the youths that are trying to run away. Just come up with that solution. Run with it. When you start, some people will be calling you a mad person. I could remember some years back when one young man started in Lagos. He was calling himself London Cole. What does he mean by that? In the morning you wear a white shirt and a white trouser and start collecting refuse around the neighborhood because there was so much refuse. In a record time of 6 months, he was able to buy himself a small keke, this keke marua that he was now using to collect refuse around the neighborhood. He painted the keke white. He will dress white, put a tie, and that alone was making people to get attracted to him, to curious about what he was doing. Some were thinking, after his HND program, he started that. Some were thinking he was going mad. Go and find out about him in Lagos today and see what he has become. A young man went abroad, was washing dead bodies in one of the big hospitals in New York, and so after about 8 years, he was picked up by immigrations and deported back to Nigeria. The following day, he went straight to General Hospital on Lagos Island and started washing dead bodies there. He told himself, if I am washing dead bodies in America and they still did not appreciate it and they deported me back home, let me come and wash dead bodies back home. after washing dead bodies for 1 year, he became something different. Because he added some finesse to it. He made it an attractive business and made a fortune out of it. Today, you are having undertakers who are wearing uniform, dancing with dead bodies. All these were innovations from people, young people who felt that they just have to take their destiny in their hand and run with it. So, my dear, no government will come and develop you. You have to start developing yourself. You have to start doing something. I will close by telling you that the day you have that idea or dream of going to start a business with borrowed money, you are a failure. Don't ever go to anybody and say, borrow me money, I want to start a business. No, sir. No, man. That's your idea. Start it in your own small corner. So, here we are. I am admonishing the Nigerian youth. Please, all of us will not be Yahoo. All of us will not be, what do you call it, comedians, online, content developer. That is why what I'm doing at my age, I don't see it as content development. I have that burden in my spirit to advise the younger ones that are coming behind to know what we did not know, that made us to walk in the dark, stumbling and rising to the glory of God. If you run with understanding, you will arrive early and you will not be found among failures. I can tell you that if you don't have wisdom to do what we are talking about, you can still japa, go abroad, go and make all the money you want to make and bring it here and come and waste it. I don't have the time to give you millions of examples of people who are telling stories now. When I was in London, or when I was in Boston, or when I was in Connecticut, all those are stories now. The individuals are here lamenting that they wasted their lives, whereas some like us did not have to go and waste our time there. We smuggled it out here. So my advice, my admonition to you is, what you need first is idea, and run with the idea, then other things will follow it. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and share this video to other Nigerian youths who are waiting to be told what to do, who are waiting to be encouraged what to do. To avoid this idea of I am lacking, I'm looking for a job. Somebody will say, I graduated 8 years ago, I have not been able to find a job. That is an error. As soon as you left the university, you have been given an education. Build on that education. Think of an idea. Look at your society. What is a problem? Ask yourself, what am I good at doing? What do I enjoy doing? Is it singing? Is it dancing? Michael Jackson became a millionaire at the age of 6. Did he need an education to do that? He didn't. And I can tell you, I can give you a plethora of examples of people who arrived early because they did not wait to be told what to do. So that's my message for you today. See you next time. God bless you.